Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake, and this is the 2021 Chevrolet C8 Corvette Stingray Convertible. I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am headed out to Spring Mountain Motorsports Ranch for some driving on track with the C8 Corvette, but not this one. We were each given a Corvette to drive from the hotel right outside the Vegas airport to the event, and I deliberately chose the one that was least like what I'll be driving at the racetrack. So at the racetrack, I will be driving a Corvette Coupe, the target top car, and I will be driving a car with the Z51 package with the track alignment, totally set up for track driving. So I asked for the softest, most street car focused version of the Corvette that they had, and this is what they gave me. So this is a basic LT1 Corvette Stingray convertible. They're all powered by the same 6.2 liter V8. They all have the same 8-speed DCT, they're all rear-wheel drive, and they are all mid-engine. So this is gonna be a quick one, but let's get behind the wheel and see how this 2021 C8 Corvette Stingray is as a street car only, and then we'll head over to Spring Mountain in a separate video and see how the cars are on the racetrack. If you haven't subscribed already, please take a second and subscribe. Most of you watching this aren't subscribed, and if you aren't and you don't have that bell turned on, you'll watch the video about this car and you'll miss the one about the C8 on the racetrack. So with that, on to the driving experience. All right, so driving the 2021 Chevy Corvette Convertible. This is the complete opposite of the car that I drove on the racetrack at Spring Mountain while I was here in the greater Las Vegas area. But it's really interesting to see the complete difference between the two cars, where the other Corvette that I drove, which was a Z51, it was a coupe, it was, you know, far more track focused, even down to the alignment. There's a recommended track alignment from Chevrolet versus the street alignment that the cars come with. This is the one that you'd probably buy as more of a cruiser, and what you want out of a cruiser Corvette is not necessarily what you want out of a track car Corvette. So based on your hobbies and interests and what you think you'll do more of with the car, that's going to determine what you choose to purchase ultimately. And the good news is this car is using all the same running gear as the one I drove all day on track that was pretty phenomenal, and it's also really good. So this one has the standard suspension. It does not have the Magna Ride. It does not have the Z51 package. So you've got, you know, softer springs, smaller sway bars, you know, softer shock valving, and a quieter exhaust. It's just going to be a little bit more of a tame car. Because of the different exhaust, you're also down 5 horsepower and 5 pound-feet of torque from what you could possibly have, which is a max of 495 and 475. So this car is 490 horsepower, 475 pound-feet. It is still quite a lot of horsepower. The car does not weigh that much. You're, you know, under 3,400 pounds, give or take. And you know, this is a naturally aspirated motor, so the power and torque that it can make will depend on your elevation. We are at about 3,000 feet where we were when I left Spring Mountain, and the cars are a little down on power there versus, you know, closer to sea level. But regardless, you do have to rev them to build power. They're torquey off idle, and you know, they get going really well, but you do have to wind it out, and you know, that's what you should do with a car that, you know, is like this and sounds this good. I have been mostly driving this in automatic mode, both on the street and on the track. This is an 8-speed DCT, a dual clutch transmission. It is an automated manual. It is not a torque converter automatic like a lot of manufacturers are going to. GM engineers really wanted the DCT for the sake of ultimate performance. And some people ask me how I feel about it, you know, from a soul and character perspective of the car. And I've driven past Corvettes, and you know, they're great cars. I think they had a different soul and character than the C8 has. So do I miss driving a stick shift? Yes. But to me, the C8 is so different from what the older Corvettes were that it doesn't bother me, because I see it almost as a new car. So I think it fits the nature of this car to have the 2-pedal DCT, and it's really quite good. One thing as I'm driving in traffic here at slow speeds that you really have to think about with a dual clutch transmission if you're building a car that will be used around town like this is general manners. And dual clutches are hard to do right at low speeds because they're not like an automatic. They don't have a torque converter. They can't slip anything. You know, it's just like a manual transmission that computers operate. So there are clutches, and I have driven some that are pretty good once you're on the move and, you know, heavier on the throttle. They can snap the shifts off, and it's really great, and that's the whole point of the transmission. But when you're driving around town, they shudder, they jerk, they buck, they can't really be smooth leaving a parking lot, doing stop and go traffic, you know, trying to start from a stop up a hill. This car can do that. And I chatted with the Chevrolet engineer last night about how they managed to do it, and he said they just really, really worked on all of the programming to make it so it's smooth at those low speed light throttle engagements and at the higher speed heavier throttle, click the shifts off, bang 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 sort of thing. It works really nicely in either scenario. As far as everything else around me in here, cabin wise, creature comfort wise, I have plenty of space. What surprised me about this car, for the sake of road tripping it, is how wide it is. You have a lot of room here as a driver. I do think as a passenger you might feel a little more constricted because you do have this big button panel here, and you know, the infotainment screen and everything. It's very driver centric, which is great, but if you're a passenger you might feel a little left out. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt if you're going to be mostly riding shotgun, but for those of us who are actually driving these cars, very nice interior, a lot of good room. I would be able to do this cross country and not feel claustrophobic. This one is the convertible, like I said, which is more or less a power operated Targa top. You don't get the full top down, wind in your hair sort of experience. I would probably skip it and just get the Targa, but if you don't want to do the Targa by hand, get the convertible. And we're going to have the opportunity to nail it away from a light here. There you go. There's some acceleration. That was not full throttle. That was 3/4 throttle, whatever. I was able to put power down enough and let it go. That was with the standard exhaust, not the Z51 exhaust. Sounds great, moves out just fine, and it hooks up pretty well. All of these cars have a limited slip diff. The Z51 cars have the electronically controlled limited slip, so it helps put power down a little more accurately, a little more aggressively based on your driving scenario, but they all put it down pretty well. And again, now if you're taking off from a light, trying to be a little more controlled, a little calmer, the DCT acts as smoothly as a torque converter automatic would, and that to me is really impressive because I know how hard that is to program in and do right, because I've driven so many DSGs, DCTs, whatever you want to call them, that aren't quite as well dialed in as this one is. And we're hitting stop and go traffic now, and you know, for as nice of a car as this is as a open road highway cruiser sort of thing, it is also pretty comfortable just like this. These are the base seats. This car is a 1LT. You can get the upgraded seats as part of Z51. They might do them separately. I know there's several different options in the configurator, and I think these seats are fine. I would prefer something that's a little more scooped in the bottom cushion to be a little more of a bucket, but these are nicely bolstered here. They are fairly tight bolsters for me, and I'm not the biggest person in the world, so you know, regardless, if you're not sure which seats you want, head to a dealer, try and try on some seats for size for your body, your height. You know, all of you is going to be different from all of me, so definitely do a test sit, but even the base seats are pretty comfortable. And sound system wise, this is again the more basic Bose system. It is pretty good, it is pretty loud, it is pretty crisp, no real complaints. The cars we were driving on track, for whatever reason, were equipped with a better sound system, which I had no opportunity to test out, but this one is pretty good, no complaints there. And so the really great thing about a car like this is that you can drive it every day, drive it in tour, in you know, the comfort settings, and just have it be a car. And this is civilized enough to just be an car. And it is big enough, you've got enough storage space between the rear trunk and the front trunk, because again, these are all mid-engine, so the engine's right behind your ears. You've got plenty of storage space. You could just use this as a daily driver, and it's comfortable. If you want to do a road trip, it's comfortable. But then if you want to pull off on the side of the road, pull into that racetrack paddock, turn everything up, even though Chevrolet says you really should get the Z51 for the ultimate track car if you're going to be tracking your car a lot, I still think this one would be fine. It's just not going to be that ultimate representation of what a Corvette can be on track. But is it a bad car to pull dual duty in? No, not at all. And I think that's the appeal of a car like this. And what's really impressive to me, obviously I got to check out the handling of these on the racetrack with the Z51 Coupes today, and it is a really accessible sort of handling and power and performance. And you get some of that by having this mid-engine layout. I think, you know, GM, Chevrolet said we've kind of reached the limits of what we can do with the special editions of the C7 for performance and pushing the envelope with a front-engine rear-wheel drive layout. Those cars are phenomenal. We have a lot of people that race them with the groups I race with, and they are seriously impressive. However, I think they wanted to step things up, and the C8 had to go mid-engine to do it, and this is a hell of a lot of performance for the price point. This one, like I said, is the convertible, which is more expensive than the coupe, and this is the 1LT. It's a fairly basic build. This one I think comes in around $67,000. You can do it a little cheaper if you are okay with the coupe, which is still going to be a target top that comes off by hand. So you can get these even cheaper than that. It's a lot of car. Even if you add on the Z51 package, which adds a decent amount of money, I think it's about $6,000, it's still a lot of car for what you're spending. So really very impressive. Big appreciation for spending some time with these, both this car and the Z51 Coupe at Spring Mountain. That is all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for coming along. Please stick around, make sure to subscribe if you want to see that video from Spring Mountain. We'll have that very shortly. And until next time, please stay safe, be well. We'll see you again soon.